Well, hello everyone, Cyber here, back with another edition for you. So today we're going to be talking with Andrew regarding his near-death experience. Andrew's story is pretty interesting. Before this even happened, he was not a believer at all. Then an incident happened to him, and he went to the other side. So, without further ado, here is Andrew's story. So we have Andrew on the line. He would like to discuss his near-death experience. Hey, Andrew, are you there?
I'm here, man.
Hey, brother. Hey, I appreciate you joining us today to talk about the experience that you've had. I know a lot of people, as I mentioned in an earlier podcast, are very fascinated in the near-death experience. And I know you'd like to have your voice heard and to tell your story. And so essentially, I would like to begin at the very beginning. So do you want to begin your story? And you can start it any way you want, going back to the beginning.
Yeah, sure. All right. So, so to set it up, so it was 2013, and I was 25 at the time, living in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be a competitive figure skater, and by the age of like my early 20s, I was getting successful at it. I was competing at, world level, traveling around for Team USA, competing, and I moved out to Massachusetts from Colorado to train with my new skating partner, which is typical in skating.
Yeah.
And I had been living with her and her family. They gave me kind of like a basement apartment at their house for a couple years at that point, and this is where that happened. So when I was competing, I used to do this stupid thing to, I guess, build confidence in myself leading up to a competition. I would do these like breath holds. I would just time myself and hold my breath for as long as I could.
Yeah.
And it, as I was able to get better, it just gave me confidence that I was getting stronger. I was more conditioned. So one night I'm downstairs in my little apartment watching TV, and I decide to do one of these breath holds randomly. So I wait until the clock on the cable box turns, and I take a nice deep breath. And I hold it for as long as I possibly can. I exhale as slowly as I can until there's nothing left. I hold that for as long as I can, and then I finally take a big breath in. And it was fine. It was all good. I slowed my breathing back down, all good. And then I got up to go to the bathroom, and that's the last thing I remember. The next thing I remember, I was waking up on the bathroom floor having a seizure, basically. I was, and no memory of getting there or anything or what was going on. And what's super strange now, looking back on it, was how calm I was internally. I just remember saying to myself, the shaking will stop and you'll be able to take a breath. Don't worry, the shaking's going to stop and you'll be able to breathe. And, after 15 to 20 seconds, that's what happened. The shaking. And then I just got up like nothing happened. I went to the bathroom and I went back down and watched TV. And it's so strange now, how I just didn't even think about it. Nothing had happened. And it took 5 minutes of, all of a sudden I was like, wow, the back of my head really hurts.
Yeah.
And then a couple minutes later, I thought, why was I just on the bathroom right now shaking like that? That's strange. And then finally, after 10 minutes, I put it all together oh, okay, I remember. I was holding my breath. I must have gotten to the bathroom and passed out and hit my head, and that's what caused me to convulse like that. But at the time, I'm like a young athlete. It's not a big deal for me, so I just didn't think to go to a doctor or anything. I just went to bed.
Yeah.
It was late at night, so I I just went to bed, and that's when this happened to me. So, so all of a sudden I fell asleep, and then all of a sudden I became aware. I was awake again, but I was not awake in my room. I was in complete blackness. I couldn't see anything, hear anything, feel anything. It was just blackness. And the very first, very clear thought came to me was, I'm dead. And it wasn't like a scary thought. It wasn't me questioning it. It was just a very clear, I'm dead. I died. And my next thought was obviously what happened, but I couldn't remember. I just knew that I was dead. And so I started feeling around. At this point, I could feel that I still had a body. Mm-hmm. So I started kind of reaching my arms out to the sides and above me, and the first sense that came back was touch, feel, and I could feel that I was in this very narrow, short tunnel, just wide enough and just tall enough to fit my body in. And I could feel that it was like wet stone. And then I thought, okay, I'm in this I'm in this some sort of dark tunnel, so I'm just going to move. I'm just going to walk forward. Yeah. And I remember dragging my hands along the sides of the wall to make sure it was still there. And then the next sense to come back was sound. I could hear the echoing of water drops. So it kind of sounded like I was in a sewer almost. Mm-hmm. And then as I thought that, the vision came back, and I could see that to the left of me in the upper corner, openings with bars and blue light coming in and creating shadows on the wall to the right. And I was like, okay, I'm in this sewer, kind of. It looked like I was in the sewer system of a city at night. Mm-hmm. And so again, nothing scary about this. It's just very matter of fact. Okay, this is what's happening. And so I just start walking down this tunnel, and after a while I see it looks as if somebody else is walking from the opposite direction towards me. And as I got closer to it, it was a reflection of me. It looked like it was me. It was wearing what I was wearing, blue jeans and a t-shirt. And I thought to myself, okay, there's this mirror in the middle of the tunnel. And as I got closer than that to it, I realized there wasn't a mirror there. It was just me. It was like somehow another me in this tunnel with me, walking towards me. And as I approached it and stopped in front of it, about 5 feet away, there then was this instant, no talking communication between us. I just knew the situation. I knew what was going on. I had the instant thought that I'm dead, I'm in this tunnel, and now I have to sit down with myself and review my life before I can pass. Yeah. And, there was kind of a confirming nod from him, and we just sat down together, Indian style, cross-legged in this tunnel, and he, pulled up this kind of half-sphere bubble-like dome in between us. And it was okay, we're going in. And we just went in. We just and started the life review and started going over different parts of my life. And I can't really remember specific memories that I went through, but I remember there was a very distinct theme. And the theme was parts of my life where I had been the hardest situations where I had said something I regretted saying and felt bad about it, or did something I didn't, think was right, or disappointed somebody, I would live the memory. I would, be myself in that memory, and I would feel all those negative feelings of shame and guilt. And every time that would happen, every time I would feel those feelings, I would get pulled back out of the review, back into the tunnel, and my guide, I guess now, who I refer to it as, but just he was me, I guess he thought the best way to approach me was by being me.
Yeah.
He would give me kind of this like love tap on the back, kind of like smack me on the back of my head, but in a very like supportive, positive way, and just be like, no, that's not it. You don't get it. And then we would go back in and we would do it again, and I would feel those feelings again, but a little bit less. And he would like bring me back out, give me a little smack. Nope, that's not it. And we just did this for a while. And then after a while, it just all started to come together, like what I was being taught, what the message was. And the message was very clearly, I judge myself way too much. I don't have the ability to forgive myself. And so therefore I judge other people. And, if I want to be good for other people, then I need to first stop judging myself and be able to forgive myself,
So when it came to your experience, just a quick question, and I asked a previous individual this question. Did this feel more real than the now that we experience?
Yeah. So that's why, I think when I hear myself go through this, the first thought is, well, wasn't this just a dream?
Yeah.
But there was never any doubt. As soon as it was over, I knew what happened. And that it wasn't a dream because, yes, it was more clear than real life. Like, it was like space itself. Like, the air itself there had texture to it. Like, it was so crisp and clear. Colors were much more dense. Sounds were much more clear. Everything was much more intense. So yeah, there's just this is really happening.
So before this whole experience happened, did you believe in near-death experiences or afterlife?
No, I had never heard of a near-death experience before this happened. And my family growing up just wasn't very religious. We didn't go to church.
Yeah.
But I was always had a very intense curiosity about those things, though. I always really had a spiritual thirst, but that was never quenched by any other explanation or religion. I never connected with religion. It just didn't seem like the whole story or something, but no, I had never. The extent of it was I was getting into meditation in the years prior to that. I was fascinated by meditation, but that was about.
So just one thing. Do you remember, or did you have the experience of leaving your body or re-entering your body?
Hello?
Hey, Andrew, can you hear me?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think I lost you there for a second. Sorry, I can hear you again now.
No, you're good. I was just going back. Do you remember or recall ever leaving or going back into your body?
I remember going back into my body.
Interesting.
Yeah, at the very end of this experience. It was the only part of the experience that was actually not good, I would say. It was unpleasant.
Well, a lot of people I talked to in the past, they've mentioned that that's part of the worst, even though it's a good experience, that's one of the worst experiences is going back into the body. I've never had this experience, so I don't know what it feels like. Some people describe it as jumping into a pool of ice water with a bunch of ice cubes. Some people describe it as being painful. What did yours feel like? Do you recall that?
Yeah, very much. This happened at the very end. And for a long time, this part of the experience made me uncomfortable because immediately after this happened, I bolted upright out of bed, tears falling down my face, and I said to myself out loud in the middle of the night in my bed, I just died. I just died. And the end part of the experience, because of knowing that I just died, kind of scared me because I didn't know. It almost was like, did I just go to hell or something at the very end?
Yeah.
But then, like, years later, I started being really drawn to hearing other people's NDEs and finding all the connections, and I started hearing them describe going back into the body, and I was like, oh, that's what happened to me in the end, because it all adds up. But I would say it wasn't painful, but if I could describe it in one word, I would say gross. It was disgusting.
Wow.
It was very, it was very gross. It was like,
it's like
I started seeing all these body parts like struggling to come into formation. I would see like atoms and then cells and then an eyeball and then back into cells and then back into atoms and then it would become like an ear or an. It sounded gross, and it felt like being dunked in like mud or just like something you didn't want to be in.
Wow. Well, I'm not sure. A lot of people tell me too that it feels gross, kind of like what you mentioned, because sometimes there are people that experience absolute bliss when they leave their body or when they're dead for a short period of time, and just getting back into the body and going back is just a dreadful, gross feeling, knowing that,
oh, absolutely.
Do I have to go back to this?
Right, yeah. Everything on the other side seemed so clean and crisp and pure. So
Wow.
It's very much, and that was the other message I got as I was doing my life review was like, being a human is very difficult, and it's thought of as very heroic to come do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, kind of like the badasses of the spirit world. Like, oh, you're going to go be a human. Like, that's tough. But, so that was definitely a message I got as well.
Wow. See, that is just very fascinating because, going back to what you're saying, you previously have never really heard of near-death experiences, but then once you start hearing these other people, even, medical doctors that never believed in this have had them, and even patients in the hospitals, have recalled things that have happened where the doctors are like, that's impossible. Whether it's
right.
looking down at their own body from the corner of the ceiling, recalling everything that was going on visually, not just,
Right.
listening. So it's, there's no reason why all these people are going to make things up. And I think what's really cool is there's a very common theme to everything.
Right. And that's what drew me into it was like, it wasn't until years later, I don't even know what brought it on, but I must have stumbled onto a YouTube video of somebody's NDE story.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, my jaw dropped. I was like, whoa, that is like exactly what happened to me. And then I started listening to more and more, and I was like, obviously something is going on here, because the tunnel, the life review, the nonverbal instant communication, it's all there. Yeah, I can relate to all of that.
That's absolutely amazing. So going back really quick, so you were in a dark place. You ended up in like a tunnel type of situation, right?
Yep.
And I just want to clarify, did this tunnel have so is this tunnel kind of like what a lot of people talk about, or was it just a dark tunnel feeling?
No, it was very much, it looked exactly and felt exactly as if I was in a sewer. It wasn't a beautiful tunnel of light. It was just your average, I'm walking around in a sewer, I guess. Like, there wasn't, it wasn't until the next phase that really, like, the beauty and crispness and clearness kind of hit. It was at the very end of my life review. Like I said, we kind of came back out of it, and there was this final, you get it. Like, you get what I'm trying to teach you. And when I understood that he understood and vice versa, and we both started, like, crying and embracing each other.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you finally get it. And it was just overwhelming. Like, it was like every way you've ever wanted to be understood by anybody else, you were being understood. Anything you've ever wanted to understand about yourself, I was now understanding, and it was just overwhelming. And as soon as I got that, I vanished, he vanished, and I shot out the end of this tunnel into the light of day, into this next phase, which was now I was bodiless. I'm just energy, and I was floating around this beautiful city in the middle of a beautiful day, but nobody out, no cars, no people, and I was floating through the streets, and now I was looking in the buildings and watching amazing parts of my life that happened.
Wow.
And these parts I do remember. I remember seeing, like, coming off the ice at a skating competition and my mom hugging me and feeling exactly how she felt for me in that moment, how proud she was of me. And then looking over into another building and seeing my dad play with me on a playground when I was a baby and feeling how he felt about me in those moments. And it was just overwhelming, you know. But then, like I said, that lasted for a while and sucked up in like this upside down tornado into the sky. And then it was into that last realm where I was being squished into my body, I guess, basically again. And then that lasted very quickly. And shot up out of bed awake.
Wow.
So that was kind of the entirety of the whole experience. And, you know, it took me years, like I said, to kind of remember it and put it all back together and realize that this was most likely a near-death experience. And, you know, I'm still learning lessons from it today.
Oh, of course. And
yeah.
So I just got two things. When you were on the other side, did it feel, or did you feel a great sense of love?
Oh, yeah. And the height of it was the moment, the realization at the end of life review, the getting it. Like, it was this, like, you're loved. You're always loved. You're deeply loved no matter what you do, because being a human is difficult and they make mistakes and they do bad things, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But you are loved. Like, you were loved before you were a human. You're going to be loved after you're a human. You're loved all the time. Like, and it's an intense love, like, physically powerful.
That's amazing. So I'm guessing now you do believe in life after death.
Oh, like,
pretty obvious.
What way with is you are not only not scared of death anymore, but in some ways you're like itching to get back there because it's tough here. You know, it doesn't.
Well, life is like
life from happening.
Well, life is like a big test. You know, I mean, at least that's how I look at it.
Certainly is.
It's a test to see, you know, that, you know, loving one another.
The test, like the why we're here, if you want to boil it down to one thing, it is simply about how we treat other people, how we treat ourselves and other people. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what you own, what job you have, where you come from. The most important thing when you get to the other side is how did you treat yourself? How did you treat other people?
Yeah.
That seems to be the thing.
Yeah, that seems to be the whole gist of most of the experiences. And I know I've talked to quite a few individuals, not on a podcast, but, you know, off to the side, who've actually had awful near-death experiences. I know there was a gentleman that I spoke with in depth, and he was a complete jerk all of his life, and he had a heart attack, and all he remembers is he was in a hellish realm. And when he woke up, he was a whole different person, and his whole family told me that there's no way he could have changed within minutes. And yeah, you know.
And he changed, like he just became a different person.
Oh,
yeah?
Completely different, loving, caring, respectful, and it's addictions that he had were gone. Now, of course, people do still experience problems in their life because it's life. Life is full of challenges, but I sense from the experiences that he had or the one that you had, you can take things from that and apply them to life. And I think it's just absolutely fascinating. I think it's incredible.
Oh yeah, and now like I live and I still face plenty of challenges like we all do.
Yeah.
But now the first thing I ask myself whenever I'm going through like a hard time, and it could be just situational. I'm having a hard day, or I'm at work and I don't want to be, or I'm with somebody I don't really care for that much. I always ask myself, what's the lesson here?
Yeah.
This is happening right now for a reason. I'm supposed to be getting something from this. What is that?
Exactly.
And I think that definitely makes the challenges of life a little more manageable to get through, understanding that this is happening for a reason, and I am supposed to be getting something from this. What is it? So look for those lessons,
That's absolutely amazing, Andrew. That is so cool. I tell you what, I love this story. I really do. I really do. This is an awesome one.
It was the most important thing that's ever happened to me, man. I mean, before or since, it's the most important thing to ever happen to me.
Oh, most definitely. You know what? And people that never...
your life forever.
Well, I tell people, because some people are like, well, why haven't I had one of these? Well, a lot of reasons that some things don't happen to other people, like winning the lottery, this and that. But I think individuals like you that have these experiences are meant to somehow pass them along. Now, not immediately, but maybe once they make sense of it years later, then then they can come out after they've processed it to the exact message or meaning behind the experience that, like, such as you have had.
Right. I mean, it's hard to integrate back into your life at first. It's like, you get a peek behind the curtain for a second, and you're just like, whoa. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming at first.
I bet it is.
It shakes you up a little bit.
Yeah. Well, but, hey, you're one of the few, well, not few, but you're one of the 1%ers that experienced it.
I guess I'm lucky. Sometimes it's hard though. I mean, it doesn't just like it definitely, there are definite times in my life where I go like, man, I just kind of want to have another one. Or like,
yeah, I know.
I just want to go back there. Like you're just like, man, like, oh, life is hard today. I wouldn't mind just going back for a little bit, for a little, like, relaxation.
Well, you know what? The glimpse that you saw, I guarantee, and I'm sure you can agree with that was just like an atom out of the whole thing. I guarantee there's more, but, they're not going to show you everything. They just want you to see, okay, see, it's real, but we're not going to show you the ultimate afterlife just yet.
Oh yeah, of course. Yep, I agree on that for sure.
That is awesome. Well, I really appreciate your story, Andrew. Is there anything you would like to say or anything further that you may have left out or forgot?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that's about the gist of it, and that, I'd like to tell other NDEers that, I think non-NDEers think that this might happen, and then, like, your life has just changed so much for the better.
Yeah.
And that sometimes, ignorance is bliss, and that, like, it does make life a little bit harder sometimes. And so I guess I would like to hear from an NDEer that that's normal, and that, it's okay to feel down sometimes, and that it does kind of make some things tougher, and that's okay.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, your story was...
And then to anybody else, I would like to add just, don't judge yourself. That, like, all those negative feelings are just, you're doing that to yourself, and you don't have to.
Yeah. Well, I completely agree with that, and I've never experienced it, but I can completely relate that message. And I think a lot of people, when they hear this and your story, they'll, yeah, I think they will agree as well.
Awesome. I'm so appreciative to gotten the opportunity to talk to you, man, and tell the story.
No, it's been an honor, Andrew. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.